We're back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sponsored Content. I'm your host. On today's episode of Spawn Storytime, we will be covering Spawn issue number 19. Before that, let's quickly recap our last issue. In issue 18, we see Nam Vet Dipper redeem himself by coming to Spawn's aid, along with all of Spawn's other bum homies. Spawn, he defeats Anti-Spawn, but not nearly after succumbing to Anti-Spawn's heavenly light. They bring Anti-Spawn back to the Orbital Angel Station following his ass whooping, and Jason Wynn gets imbued with even more elemental fire power. We meet Mystery Bum and Cagliostro Associate, who's watching Spawn, kind of like the observers from Fringe, maybe. He gives Spawn his card. He gives him a little bit of info regarding the nature of this battle, sort of between Heaven and Hell and other associated parties. But Spawn continues on to destroy Simmonsville. He kills Major Vale, and he collects a special memory of him and Wanda, which he packages and then gifts to Wanda, and accepts his fate in the darkness. Issue number 19 was released on October 1st, 1994, featuring artwork from Greg Capullo, depicting Spawn looking pretty intense, pretty fiery and extreme, looking a little pissed off, maybe angry. He really hasn't had the best time up to this point, so it looks like maybe a lot of his frustrations coming through in this cover here. So it's worth mentioning a few things about issue number 19. One, it kicks off a 2-issue story arc in which we'll meet Harry Houdini. This 2-issue series is guest written, and I'll leave you to look at the credits to find that information. But essentially these next 2 issues are a little odd insofar as when we get to issue number 18, what actually happened in release order was the release of the Spawn Batman one-shot, the crossover. And then when we picked up from there, we picked up with Spawn issue number 21, and we continued with 22, 23, and 24, before actually then coming back around to issue number 19 and introducing the Houdini storyline. And from there we go to issue 25, I believe, and then back to issue number 20. So things get a little odd, and I'll make some notes in the description. One for who Harry Houdini is, for anyone who may not know that, and also just for the general reading order that I'm following, and a specific note with regard to the fact that these issues in release order are sort of out of place. Let's go ahead and jump right into issue number 19. Issue 19 kicks off with an article regarding Harry Houdini from 1916, describing one of his escape attempts. On the second part of the page, we see Nagasaki, Japan, in August of 1945. This is in the midst of World War II. We see a group of gentlemen around a fire. They're tapping into some dark energy. They're looking to maybe get some aid from an army other than their own. So then we see, else when and where. A group of creepy, demonic-looking fellas here, one named Percent to the 2 and one named Percent to the 9. So they're basically, I think, observing what's going on here. And while this is happening, they realize that they have bridged the abyss. This nuclear blast that has occurred here in Japan, and certainly the second one, has registered some infernal matter, and so these observers are kind of witnessing this, and I believe what we're to learn on this page is that they are using this blast as research into whether or not a blast of an atomic nature can have a significant impact or possibly defeat a Hellborn agent. So they're kind of using this nuclear blast to gather research and to see whether or not the infernal matter can be impacted by a nuclear blast. On our next page, we see a really badass Al Simmons perched atop this building near this gargoyle. Maybe he's in the Soviet Union. He's in Russia somewhere thereabouts. It looks like he's about ready to snipe the shit out of this guy, this Jagoff, Yusuf Volokov. And right before he does, he realizes he's getting lit up himself. So he's become noticed or exposed, but he's bouncing across the rooftops here, sort of like the Grinch. He's moving it, hightailing it out. He's got people everywhere, all over his ass, just shooting. He gets inside a building, and all of a sudden he's got a gun at his head. So this is very concerning for Al, of course. And then we see in New York City, 5 o'clock in the morning, a rickety old shopping cart pushing along. And Spawn, as we know him, Baked Potato Spawn, he's kind of woken up. He's like, oh my gosh, another nightmare. What's going on? What's the deal with this shopping cart right in my face? That wasn't here when I went to sleep. And then a big ass explosion. And Spawn comes out of this explosion like half awake and really pissed off, looking awesome. He's like, you're meat. And then this dude's like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. It was just a pile of rags, I'm getting out of here. And then we see this gentleman arrive. and he's like, yo, Hellspawn, we need to talk. He grabs his cape, sort of yanks him over like a child, and he's like, yo, I can't let him get away. He nearly blew me up. And he's like, don't worry about it. I got his wallet. We'll look into him later. We've got some important matters to discuss. Next, we get a really long description about New York and its various boroughs. We end up in Little Ukraine, which is sort of sandwiched between Central Park and Harlem. It goes on to say it's a really nice neighborhood. We see that the topic early this morning is Porsche McNeil, and then there's some old Ukrainian fellas here kind of sitting and gossiping, talking about this kid. He's basically like a big shot. He's got like a big job in electronics or technology, but he's still kind of a mama's boy. So they're just kind of like talking crap about him, saying, he's a pretty good kid though. And then this guy's like, look, I got a jet. I got to pick up a friend of mine. He's got some special luggage coming in, needing special care at the airport. So I got to split. Newscast. Lady says, for the first time in a long ass time, there's some Soviet bloc nations are going to meet and talk about like their nuclear affairs. So there's going to be like a big ass conference at Columbia University. Pencil Neck says, if you ask me, these gentlemen need like a fashion update. He calls them farm boys and just kind of basically insults them and says they should wear Armani. Beard says, something conspiratorial. Basically, why did they come all the way here to talk about A-bombs? We're not going to use them anyway. This is a photo op. Basically, this is like gangster activity, and he kind of misses the Cold War. Next, we catch up with Andrei Zlenko. This is the fellow from Little Ukraine. He's down at the airport now. He's got to pick up a package from his friend. We see this gentleman in the back smoking the stogie, looking pretty menacing in his pinstripe gangster attire. He's kind of overseeing what's going on. Andre is grabbing this package that looks to have been inspected by U.S. Customs. Not sure about that. Basically, he's doing a favor for an old friend. Back at Columbia University on day 2 of the East-West Atomic Warfare Conference, we have a group of fellas here from the Soviet Union. They're going to take a taxi and they're going to explore a little bit of the American nightlife, predominantly just some strip clubs, it looks like. So they're having a good time here, kind of lamenting the fact that their science is going to go unused. And if it were to be used, then they'd probably be all blown to bits anyway. Several rounds later, these gentlemen here are going on, getting into pretty gory detail about the nature of their work. So they drop some names, they make some specific references, and this looks to have caused concern from sort of their handlers here. So he gets on the phone, and this guy is like, you were right. This sort of talk has got one of these KGB agents off of our ass, and now this guy is kind of distracted because he's got this chick's panties in his face. So they get to slip away. These two guys realize their mistake, and now they're after this group of guys who have now disappeared. We see on the next page, everyone's hopping in a taxi except for Yusef here. This big fat guy, he's running away to visit some of his friends. So he hops in a separate cab and he is headed off to Little Ukraine. Back elsewhere in Winware, we learn that the place that we had seen previously is called the Overlap. It is essentially a reality that intersects all planes of existence. It's what we now know to be the birthplace of magic, and there are basically no laws here. There are no physical laws, or spiritual or otherwise, and this is basically a place where some people come to discover and experiment with magic. So I'm not really sure how you get here, but if you can make it here, then you are sort of allowed to have free reign and experiment all you want with all sorts of magic and all sorts of other freaky shit. It says, one such meeting now between a group is sort of exploring the physics of hell. This creature on the left looks to be maybe one of the Percent brothers from earlier in our story. This person goes on to explain that they've been watching the people of Earth for several years now, using their atomic weaponry. They're basically using these atomic bombs as a testing ground to see if atomic energy has the capability to destroy an agent from hell, or a hell's spawn, or a hell's pawn, as they put it. In our opening pages, we were able to see the last time that they had an attempt at experimentation here, which was during the bombing of Japan during World War II. It says now that Percent someone has plugged a thought program into a scientist here, and that he's going to detonate an atom bomb at a pre-selected time, which will basically be during this East-West Atomic Conference, and that they've also placed an agent here who will make sure that everything is sort of in order and that the hell creature is in place. They're also taking more precaution now to have a safer viewing distance. So this is an extended test to see if atomics can kill demons, and if in fact they can scatter their infernal matter, across everywhere. He concludes by saying that the best part is their agent, in this matter Houdini, that he is going to be eliminated as part of this process. So we can gather here that Houdini in this place called the Overlap is kind of a menace. So they're looking to kind of get rid of him. They're also kind of roping Spawn into this. They're kind of experimenting with him to see if they can destroy him in this atomic blast. This guy at the bottom is basically like explaining in a lot of detail how he's going to trick Houdini into having to remain here and get exploded, and everybody except for this Confucius looking dude is on board. He's kind of skeptical though. He thinks Houdini's pretty good at escaping, so he's not really sure why this would be any different. Back in Little Ukraine, around midnight, we see Fat Yusuf creeping up the stairs here, looking for his pal Andrei Slinko. And we see this punk-ass kid from earlier in our issue. He's walking down the stairs. Basically, this fat guy asks him where his pal is, and he says, yeah, I think he's in 301. Now in Greenwich Village, half an hour later, our punk kid is driving to work, maybe, apparently in a 3000 GT, and he gets to work at his electronics job at like Radio Shack, and now he's building another bomb. So he basically describes why he's doing this in this. Essentially to just get rid of the bums around his house, and then whoever he's on the phone with makes a crack about him being at his mom's house all the time. He says, yeah, whatever, I'm making an even bigger bomb right now, and it's going to be extra badass. Here we see this awesome shot of Houdini and Spawn sort of chilling out on the rooftops under the like full-ass moon. It's really hard to tell the difference between Spawn's head and the moon, actually. But he's basically like, how am I supposed to believe you're really Harry Houdini? And Houdini says, well, how am I supposed to believe, like, you're a demon from hell? Aren't you dead? And they're kind of like arguing about this. And then they basically reach an impasse here. But Houdini is like, great, I've kind of piqued his curiosity. Houdini continues that he didn't come here to discuss a bunch of unbelievable shit with Spawn, that he's actually here to talk to him about his powers. Spawn says, what the hell do you know about my powers? And Houdini's like, how do you think that I got so badass at being an escape artist? He said, I used to concentrate really hard, and a result of my concentration basically led me to discover this like extra dimensional portal to the Overlap. He says, so now I know real magic. Houdini says, did you see me just disappear now? Was it an illusion, a smoke pellet? Did I like teleport? He says, does it even matter? Basically, no, he says. That's sort of magic. The result is what matters and not the method. He says magic is all about perception and the will's ability to alter that perception. And he goes on to explain again to Spawn that he basically needs to get his costume to use energy, so he's not expending it himself. So he says, you know, magic is essentially just telling a lie that's so convincing you convince the universe to believe it, and that you're basically made of power, so don't exhaust your power, just let your costume do the work. He says, oh my gosh, behind you, and Spawn's chains instinctively whip back and smash this threat. Houdini's like, see, you know, your suit reacted, you didn't even have to do shit. He says, now check out this bomb. You know, this is kind of a threat. He whips out this like really cartoonish bomb, and Spawn's cape sort of instinctively just snuffs out this bomb. Houdini says, you know, I got some more shit to tell you, so listen up. He says your most important power of a creature is manifestation. So basically, like, if you can think of something, you know, think of it in your mind, and you think about all the details, and you feel your desire for success, you know, fades to sureness, and you just know that you're gonna collect all the molecules around you that are floating free, grab them thinking of this marble, and you can just make it. So he's like, make a marble, and Spawn's like, a marble? Seriously? Okay. And then all of a sudden we see this giant like bust made of marble of a beautiful woman appear, and Houdini says, you know, that's pretty close, but we'll try again. And then we see some guys on the rooftop here. Notice Spawn and Houdini. So Brains, Divvy, and Smokey here, they're looking for a fight. They're kind of a gang of thugs. Spawn, he's kind of fired up. He's like, yeah, go ahead, come at me. And then this dude gets socked in the face with one of Spawn's chains. So he continues whooping his ass. And then Houdini's like, Brains, Divvy, Smokey. You know, he does a little bit of magic. And this dude gets like cut in half. This dude dissipates into smoke. And this guy's brains are straight on the ground now. Spawn's like, holy shit, dude, what came over you? You completely mutilated these kids. Like, I'm usually fine with whooping them up a bit, but that was really brutal and nasty. Houdini's like, I did no such thing. You know, this was an illusion. They're basically going to snap out of this soon. And Houdini's actually like, you know, you used your powers. You were actually pretty brutal. You know, you were kind of like whooping the shit out of that dude with your chains. So, you know, maybe watch how you talk to me. Houdini says you're kind of limiting yourself by really not trying anything new. You're basically still like thinking like a human. And then Spawn's like, so what are you basically suggesting? And in this moment, Houdini knows that he's got Spawn's attention. He's like, you know what? I've got these tickets. I'm actually going to take you to the overlap where I'm kind of like a jackass and a prankster, sort of like Drop Dead Fred maybe. He just kind of like shows up, causes some mischief, and then like splits. He says he has the ticket to knowledge, though. These tickets are to the Columbia University East-West Atomic Conference, which is a little strange, but that's basically where Houdini is going to now take Spawn to show him something, quote, beyond his wildest dreams. He says, you know, before we go, though, I need you to look a little like more normalized here and less conspicuous. So he hands him like this chauffeur's cap and a set of keys. Houdini says, have you ever driven a Rolls? And at that moment, 3 stories below on the ground, we see this twerp back with a new bomb package here he's planning in the alleyway. Houdini says, you know, stick around, Spawn, you'll be able to do something like this. Sort of snaps his fingers, and we see this old, like, really cool Rolls Royce appear. And then we see below a giant-ass boom, and Spawn notices this kid again, of course, because one, he's got his 3000 GT parked outside again. And Houdini's like, yeah, this guy is annoying, let's get him. Spawn's like, he's toast. Spawn has now assumed the chauffeur's role here, and Houdini is right behind him. Spawn says, I'm going to kick this dude's ass, and then Houdini's like, actually, I need you to drive. On our next page, we are now back at the familiar house of Wanda Blake in Queens. We see that everyone's sort of asleep here. It's really early Sunday morning, just a few minutes past 5, and the phone rings. We see Terry pick it up. He's like, yeah, I've got that sort of clearance, you know, why couldn't the KGB handle this? Oh, they tried. So basically, he's kind of getting pulled into an assignment here. Terry's work for the CIA is largely like not field work at this point. It's like desk work. He's sort of like a linguist or something. He is a translator maybe, but he speaks Russian. And due to the nature of this situation with these fellows on the loose and like the atomic conference and whatever's going on, he's being pulled into action. So he's being called up. He's like getting an assignment where he's going to have to go out and do some field work. So he's getting up to leave, and he's like, hey, Wanda, I'm sorry, but I have to do some overtime work before my shift starts. And then he gets up to get ready, and she's like, did he say atomic device? And we see in our next issue, issue number 20, the follow-up to this story, we will find out what exactly is meant by the atomic device. And that's the end of issue number 19. This has been another episode of Spawn Storytime. Thanks for stopping by. Hope to see you again.
Boom, Jack 11.